You probably found maths easy in year 12. In fact, you probably skipped a few lessons, maybe didn't really pay attention, your notes weren't that great. There's a few holes here and there in your knowledge, but you thought all throughout summer, you know, by the time I get back to year 13, I'll kind of plug those holes and then I'll go from there. If you haven't already realized, you will very quickly realize that those holes do not get plugged by themselves. You're now getting more content, bulkier content, more complicated content, and instead of plugging the holes you assumed all summer that you'd just plug when you got to year 13, instead, what's happening is those old chapters from year 12 have just been pushed aside. Now new chapters, more complicated chapters have come in from year 13 and you're all over the place. This is the make or break time for you. Not November, not after Christmas, right now. Why is that? Because you not having all the knowledge you need or failing a few class tests isn't really the issue. Knowledge and skills come with commitment and repetition. The real problem is that your strategy so far has been inconsistent and inefficient. By your first round of mocks, you're going to be realizing that you're now in a sinking ship and you're going to start to do what I like to call overtraining or revising too much. And people like to talk about cramming, but cramming is really just the tip of the iceberg. Overtraining starts weeks before, where you will begin to do basically a full-time job workload worth of maths. This is not necessary. In your sinking ship, you'll basically be taking a bucket and trying to scoop out the water that's causing you to sink instead of fixing the hole that's causing the sinking in the first place. Okay, so now you want to change this, but there's a wealth of information online and it's honestly overwhelming to the point where there are so many resources that you don't actually know how to use them and what to do. So I'm going to start talking some practical steps now. Don't give me any excuses. I'm not going to continue this video until you get a pen and paper and you start taking notes of these steps right now. Seriously. I'll wait. You've done it? Okay. Step 1. Locate where the damage is to the ship. From last year, you'll have some topics that you know are a bit shaky to you or there's gaps there. Teachers usually do this where they give you like a content chart and they have red, yellow, green, and you tick which topics you're green in, which you're yellow in, which you're red in. Forget all of that. There's no such thing as yellow. If you think that you're kind of okay in a topic, then I know that you have no idea what you're doing in that topic. So red and green only. If there is even the slightest hint of doubt, then it goes into red. Step 2, you need to tackle your gaps in knowledge head on. This means that you need to take on the biggest topics first. I've spoken about this quite a bit on the channel and told you how maths actually is structured in a way that only a few topics makes up for the bulk of the marks. If you're not too sure on what these kinds of topics are, check out my channel. I have a video called All of A-Level Maths in 10 minutes that really highlights exactly where you kind of need to focus your attention once you know where you're weak. Finish this video first, but after that, go to that video, All of A-Level Maths in 10 minutes, and make notes of areas of overlap between topics that you are weak in and topics that are worth the most marks on the exam. Because we're not in slow and methodical learning mode anymore. No. We are well beyond that. We are now in patch the holes territory. We need to get as good at these skills as quick as possible. This links to step 3, and that is that you are not revising. You are training. What do I mean by that? You're not going to be reading any more theory than you absolutely need to. In practice, this looks like you opening the textbook, reading literally whatever allows you to answer the question. That will take you maximum 5 to 10 minutes, literally no more than that. And after that, you're going straight into training. Training being tackling example questions, practice papers, doing it timed and marking harshly. A lot of you may realize that there's this huge disparity between when you do past papers yourself and you mark it compared to when you do it in class and your teacher marks it and you get these greatly different scores. The reason for that is because you're not marking it properly. And the reason you're not marking it properly is because you're being too soft on yourself. Not by any fault of your own, but simply because you know exactly what your thought process was with every question you're doing. Your teacher doesn't. So you need to put yourself into that mindset whenever you mark your papers. Finally, step 4, and this is the most important one. So if you haven't been paying attention as of now, you really need to lock in and pay super close attention to what I'm about to tell you. Step 4 seems simple. It's consistency. Everything I've told you before is absolutely pointless and meaningless if you do not stay consistent with it. This is what separates A-star students from D students. This is what separates the person who goes to the gym once a week, every 3 months, compared to every day. They may not be as tense in those short bursts where you may do cramming, but they are the ones who consistently get the best results. The reason that you've tried and failed many times to be consistent in your revision, or as I like to say, training, is usually for one of 3 reasons. The first is that you find the content boring and you don't want to be doing something that bores you. The second is that you don't want to miss out on social interactions. You think to yourself, well, I would rather go have food with my friends compared to sitting in this room by myself doing questions. And the third, whether you'd like to admit it or not, is the fear of failure. Even when you're all by yourself, simply not being able to do a question is extremely, extremely demotivating. And the fear of not being able to do that question is what stops you from even trying in the first place. People do this in all aspects of life, and it's no different for A-level math. So here is quite plainly what you're going to do to minimize the effect of all 3 of these. The first is that you're going to revise daily, but only 45 minutes to an hour a day. This is too short a time for you to become bored in. And if you do become bored in this period of time, then to be honest, that's a bigger question on your attention span than your revision strategy. Second thing you're going to do is only revise at school. This means when you're at home, you're at home. You do whatever you want. Schools often give you loads of extra time for revision anyway. You've just not been using it. And to be honest, the fear of failure never truly goes away. But the more you practice these topics, the more comfortable you'll get with this. I'll be posting more about specific revision strategies later on, so if you want to stay tuned for that, just subscribe to the channel, but that's not what this video is specifically. I've just touched upon the kind of tip of the iceberg of what you're going to do here. This is like the core pillars of what you need to do. Another thing is that when you are doing these 45 minutes to 1 hour sessions at school, I only want you to be doing practice questions. No theory. Save the theory for later. And also, if you do get stuck on any given question for longer than half the time that you're revising, leave it. Highlight it, take it to your teacher. That's something you don't do on your own time. Leave that for your teacher to explain it to you. The one thing I want you to take away from this video is that you are not revising, you are training. This is the beginning of your training. I am not a maths YouTuber, this is not a maths channel, and all the basic rules of training in any discipline apply to you. I'm the coach who's been where you were, who's failed where you failed before and succeeded where you will succeed if you listen to me. So with that being said, the first way that you begin the process is by subscribing to the channel. Thank you, have a nice day.